We are in the middle of a major timeline split, and depending on when you see this video, it may have already happened for you. Now, we just had a holiday weekend here in the United States, and so, our schedules were upside down. We might have had family and a lot of things going on, and so you may not have noticed the energy specifically, or you may have noticed the energy, but attributed them to the holiday, the chaos, whatever. No. The energies had me upside down and inside out all weekend. I finally sat down to tune in the energies Saturday night, and I was expecting to see a shift or a merge, a timeline jump, something like that. But instead, what Spirit showed me was a split. And I thought that was weird because we just had a merge. We just had a new collective join us early November. And so that's what gave us enough momentum to go into this new revelation with the Epstein files. And so I was like, wait, we've just had a merge. How are we splitting again? And so that's when I got very specific details about kind of a main factor of this split. Now, before I get into that, I'm going to say this is not the split. Okay, if you're in Ascension communities, if you're, in spirituality, people have long spoken of a 3D, 5D split, this big final thing where we will no longer see the lower dimensional version of Earth. This is not that, okay? Timeline merging, jumping, splitting, this is normal. This is how we go through life, okay? But as we're continuing on in our ascension, the veils are thinning, these things are becoming much more noticeable. So although this is normal, it's just heightened because we are further along in the group project, shall we say. Ascension is no longer just a personal thing. We're going through our own personal evolution. We're doing it as a group. So these splits and merges become much more noticeable. So when I tuned in on Saturday, I got very clear guidance about the main driving factor for this split. And it very much fit with what I've been feeling in my audience. So I have a combined social media reach of almost 200,000. And as a psychic and as an empath, I'm very tuned in to my audience, to my followers. Where are we all going? Where are most of us stuck? What do we need? And that's how I'm able to create these events and these different offerings, my light circles, my what's coming next, to serve us where we're at. So when I got this information, I was like, yeah, that perfectly tracks, because I'd already been feeling this tension. So very specifically, this split is about what we're ready for next in awakening. Now, what that means is, awakening is not just one thing. It's not about one thing, and it's never, ever a one and done. So depending on where you're at in your awakening, this will determine how you approach this split. So there's this huge group of collective people in this, facing this timeline split, who haven't awoken yet. Now, yes, this is primarily spiritual awakening, but more practically, it's about they haven't awoken from their chosen narrative. They are willfully asleep, willfully ignorant, trying really hard not to wake up to the lies that they've ingested, the belief systems they have that are crumbling, that are being revealed as corrupt or untrue or incomplete. They're really resisting that. And so those people on that end of the spectrum, this split for them is really their choice point. Are they ready for that? And this is a soul level split, okay? This is never like, oh, you better pass the test or you're not going to make it. This is all happening on a subconscious, energetic soul level. And your guides and guardians, all our heavenly helpers, they're really helping us at every step along the way. So these people, this unawakened collective is being prepped for, are you ready for this wave of awakening? Because awakening now, with the shit show that is all around us, this is hard, guys. I mean, awakening at any point is hard, but it's really hard now because everything is very loud and we're seeing the really gritty grossness of humanity, of society out on full display. So those folks on those end of the awakening, it was prepping them. Are you ready for this? Are you spiritually, physically, emotionally ready for this? And if they are going to be willing to do what it takes to wake up, to begin deconstructing all of that process, they're going to go on one side of this split. So then you have people further along in their awakening. They've been woke, all right? They've been woke. They've been doing the work. They're much more spiritually evolved. They've already seen the corruption, all of that, okay? These folks, the question is, are you ready to hold space for the new awakening collective? And this is where it gets a lot harder. And this is why when Spirit told me this, I was like, yes, of course, because I've been seeing this in my comments for weeks. And it's pretty rough, I gotta say. I'm seeing a lot of anger, a lot of rigidity, a lot of projecting, a lot of punishing, retribution energy, not divine justice, but punishing. Now, of course, this makes total sense depending on where you're at in your healing journey. Because if you still have a lot of unhealed wounds, if you still have areas where, you've been betrayed, you've been hurt by unawakened people, you haven't really worked through your own wounding, it makes sense that you're going to react to a new wave of awakening in that way. Your wounding is going to come out. And so the choice point for this group of people then becomes, are you able to hold space for others awakening? And if you're not, you'll go on one side of the split. If you are, and you could be the grown-up in the room, you'll go on this side of the split. Now, it's really important to note here that none of this is said with judgment, okay? None of this is about judgment. This is more about an energetic match. And I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario to kind of give you an idea. So if there's person A at the beginning of their awakening and they're really resisting and they're not getting it and they're being very stubborn, they're not having it, they're going to be an energetic match for someone who is going to see someone not awakening, and they're going to have words about it, and they're going to be real mad, and they're going to want to take a lot of stuff out on that person. Now, it doesn't make it, right or a positive choice, whatever, neutral, okay? This is how humans react under stress. Those two folks are going to be a better match for each other. Does that make sense? Versus people who were like, you know what, I remember awakening, I've been through awakening, they understand how people were brainwashed or groomed or from birth taught to be a bigot, all of these nuances and factors. And they're in a place where they have healed, so they're not trying to project those wounds onto unhealed people. So they're a better match for people who are ready to wake up now, and it's going to be rough. And they need a soft place. They need people to gently help them ease into this transition so they can actually make the transition. So they're a better match. Now, in terms of whether or not, these two timelines are going to be able to see and interact with each other, I don't know. I didn't get that much information, but as soon as I had, I unpacked this, I sat with spirit, I worked through it a bit. I immediately felt the energy waves came in, knocked me out. I had to go lay down. I felt these intense waves come in and process, and they were so intense that when I got up, I'm telling you, I didn't know who I was for like 3 hours. It was weird. It was that weird, when I've been saying we're in the weird, wibbly wobbly, what day is it? What time is it? I just felt so off and so ungrounded. I couldn't get grounded. I was foggy. It was so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. And it gradually eased throughout the night, but it wasn't until I woke up the next morning that I felt, for me, my shift had locked in. Sunday morning, my split, I'd made my choice, I'd moved. And the second I felt that lock in Sunday morning, tuning back into the audience, I felt so much better. Because every time we make one of these jumps or shifts or merges, it's very chaotic for me, as I can energetically feel where people in my audience are at. And we go in these waves where there's a lot of harmony, and then either we merge with a group or we're coming up on a split where things feel disjointed and it feels off, and I feel the tension and it's itchy and it's, oh, I hate it. And that had been building over the past few weeks. But when I woke up Sunday morning, and again, checked in with spirit, and my shift had been, my split, my choice point had been made. I'd locked in. The energy felt so different, because even though not everyone has made their choice, not everyone has locked in, because I locked in, I was only energetically feeling those who have locked into the same choice with me. So that's how it looked for me as a psychic going through this. What it might look for you is you're going to be feeling, a lot of you, some of these energy symptoms. They're going to feel, dizzy, spacey, that kind of weird, aloof, floaty. You could also feel sickness that comes with these, sudden exhaustion, where spirit's like, okay, lay down now so we can migrate you. And the fact that this happened over a major holiday weekend, a holiday weekend that is so fraught for many people, makes all the sense in the world, because as we go about our various holiday choices, whether you're with family or you're not with family, whether that's by choice or not, all these different nuances are giving us more data. How are we going to interact with the people on our timeline? How are we going to interact with our families, our communities, our financial systems? We had a big holiday. Most of us are doing the blackout. There's a lot going on here. And so all of these different choices and options available to us provide us data. How do we feel about that? What do we want here? What do we want there? Where are we feeling? And how did our choice make us feel? The choice we already made, how did that make us feel? So all this data is helping us as we really sort ourselves, as we make our choice leading up to these big timeline shifts. Now, hopefully, like me, many of you have made the shift and you're out of the weird, but if you're not, we're going to get there soon, okay? So just hang in there.